A few weeks ago, I started to learn Cantonese for the very first time, and today I wanted to share in this video with you why am I learning Cantonese, which are my resources, what are my goals. This is how the video is going to be split, so in case, don't hesitate to skip to the part which is interesting you the most, and let's dive directly into it. So first, why Cantonese? Cantonese is mostly spoken in Hong Kong, Macau, and some part of southern of China. The main China dialect still remains Mandarin, but Cantonese is spoken in those places, and as you maybe know now, I'm currently studying in Hong Kong for this year, so Cantonese is the official language of Hong Kong. So at first, I really wanted to take this year also to improve my Mandarin, because most of the people speaking Cantonese also speak Mandarin, but my university does not allow us to take any credits at university for languages classes, because they have both Cantonese and Mandarin classes, and on the side they're giving classes which you have to pay some fees, which are, by the way, totally okay and very affordable, but they're not giving you any credits. But for this kind of classes you only had Cantonese, so I decided that as I'm staying a year here, it could also be a super good idea to just take those lessons and probably also to continue my own learning of Mandarin on the side, and this is why I started to learn Cantonese this year. So I started to learn Cantonese in those classes, so I think now it's my second week of classes or third week of classes. It has been mixed a bit, as there were like some 3 days of holidays for Mid-Autumn Festival and for the National Day of Republic of China on the 1st of October. So some classes were just dropped, but mostly it's my third week of learning Cantonese. So in those classes, they really help you to speak. We are about 20-30 people, I think, in this class, and they will really be focusing on make you speak from the first classes you're already speaking, trying to speak with other people. And I really like in these classes is that as it is not credits, that's not only students, you have also people which are working in the university. So you will just end up talking to a teacher, a professor just next to you, and be trying to ask for his name if he's a teacher, saying you're a student. So I think it's kind of funny, and it's very good mood in this class as well, as we all just very like baby speakers, like beginners, and learning a language is also creating another bond with people. So, and you're actually meeting people that you would probably not have met otherwise. So far, what did I learn? So they were really the basics, so how to say what is your name, where are you from. We learned how to count until 99, I guess, as we don't know yet how to say 100. Just all those basic stuff to introduce yourself, trying to listen and to understand some numbers, some phone numbers, and all those things. So I wish I had more time dedicated to Cantonese. I'm still trying to figure it out a bit how to schedule my time so I have enough time for Cantonese, because I also really want to take the most of it during this year, and I know that I will also have to keep a lot of work on the side, and I really want to improve as much as I can and take the most of those classes. So far this is the things that we learned. So I only know how to say a very few sentences, to say what I'm studying and all those things. But if you already saw a few of my videos, especially the very first videos I did on this channel, you probably know that I also learned a bit of Mandarin. So the question is, how is Mandarin compared to Cantonese? So I'm not going to repeat again why am I learning Cantonese and not Mandarin. It's not very firstly my choice, but I just took this opportunity that I had to learn Cantonese, and I thought that I could just continue to improve my Mandarin on the side as well. So comparing Mandarin and Cantonese, I don't have a good level in Mandarin at all. I think I'm around HSK 3, something like that, because I did not really practice a lot those last month or even this year with university, and so I can understand a few things. I still remember a lot of characters. I can understand some things, like recognize, for example, in the elevators they're always going to repeat, for example, mind the door in English, in Cantonese, and in Mandarin, and I will understand mostly what they're saying in Mandarin, or like recognize some characters. Or there are a lot of people from mainland China in my university as well, so it's also sometimes funny to see that I can mostly understand at least the topic they're talking about in Mandarin. And the first thing I can say about Cantonese is that I was definitely not ready for it, because I knew that there were more tones than in Mandarin, but I just find that Cantonese is on another level of difficulty than Mandarin. I'm not saying that Mandarin is easy at all, but just for the pronunciation, for Mandarin you have 4 tones, and in Cantonese you're going to have between 6 or 9 tones depending on what you define as a tone, but there are far more. There are some sounds which are Also, I think as a French speaker, a bit more difficult to pronounce, so there's a lot to work on that as well. And the characters for Cantonese are the same like traditional characters of Chinese. Mostly they mean the same thing, but not always, so it's also very important just to focus on the differences and to just learn a new pronunciation for a character you already learned. So that's why I found a bit maybe frustrating, as I'm not very good at Mandarin either, but just I know what this character kind of means, but you have no idea how to pronounce it, and it's going to be very different as well. I just think from a beginner point of view that Cantonese really for me seemed harder than Mandarin because of all the pronunciation tones, because they are far more. I also think like that the way the words are pronounced are more difficult for me as well. I don't think that the grammar is far different. I didn't go this far either, but also just to say the very first sentences, I realized how harder it was for me to remember them and to not have the feeling I was just like trying to repronounce the sounds without even knowing which character was related to which word. So if I had to talk about basically the main difference between Mandarin and Cantonese, I would say this is it. So, and also when I learned Mandarin, I learned like the simplified characters. So there's also like this learning that I have to do for traditional characters, because a lot of them you can easily recognize which simplified character they represent, but sometimes there are some which are a bit more complicated, but as also the pronunciation is a bit different, that also allows me to kind of separate what I learned from Mandarin to what I learned from Cantonese, because sometimes when I was trying to say sentences during exercises, I would just know how to say it in Mandarin, and sometimes some little words would pop out even though it's totally not correct. So I will also use that to just separate them both. So to summarize, I would say that I know it will depend on people, but for me I really found that Cantonese is a bit harder than Mandarin, because I just thought I was able far easier to say some sentences in Mandarin and to also understand what here it's a bit more different and a bit more difficult. Talking now about my Cantonese resources, maybe you know that having some resources for Cantonese is a bit harder than finding things for Mandarin Chinese. For Mandarin Chinese, you basically have so many methods, so many books, so many things that you could access to, that Cantonese is way harder. Even in Google Translate, for example, they do not have Cantonese. And in Switzerland, I was looking for a Cantonese textbook before leaving for Hong Kong, and you had to order some online because they absolutely do not have any. I just also found that it was far harder to have some resources to learn Cantonese. I know that there are also some applications, I think, which have Cantonese, maybe such as Drops. I would have to check that. So the resources that I'm using, except all the material that we have in classes, because we have some list of index, for example, to know how to say every faculty of our university, or also the slides, which are really like going to help you to know the basic sentences. But I also really want to make the most of my Cantonese learning, so I also bought 2 books on my own. So firstly, there's Complete Cantonese book that I bought before coming. So this book is pretty huge, and they say it's basically gonna get you to A0, so very like beginner, to maybe B1. I don't know if it's true. I did not go a lot for it. I think I did only the first chapter. So I really want to take some time to learn also the things which are in this book, because I think it's pretty complete. And you also have the characters, because I also found out while searching for books for Mandarin that there are a lot of books which actually do not have the characters, and I find that so frustrating, because I really want to be able to read as well. So when you just buy a book and they only have the pinyin, so it's like the romanization of saying words, so it's to help people which are not speaking Chinese basically to know how to pronounce the words. It's so frustrating because no Chinese speakers are using pinyin to write. Like, they wouldn't probably even know what we're talking about if we're writing in pinyin. They are not able to recognize any characters. So I found personally that it's very frustrating, even though my goal would be to reach a conversational level. So in my class I also have the romanization of the words, so how to pronounce them, and then the characters. So I think that's super great, and I'm also looking forward to take more time to go a bit more in detail in this book. And then the second resources that I have, this book is illustrated Hong Kong Cantonese, and I think this book is pretty funny, and I found it on a bookshop here in Hong Kong. And basically you're gonna have a lot of words with their Cantonese translation, English, and also Mandarin. So this book is actually pretty useful, as you can have a lot of words. I also think that the illustration in this book are pretty funny as well. And well, there's also actually Tagalog Bahasa Indonesia. So you have a lot if you want to use this book, but I think it was pretty a good book just to have some vocabulary. And so finally, what are my goals actually for Cantonese? So I'm here for a year, so I think I kind of have enough time to make it worth it to learn Cantonese, but I don't have the same goal as I have in Mandarin, because I really want Mandarin one day to be a language that I can speak very confidently, and that is not the case for Cantonese, because I want to reach a conversational level. I want to reach the highest level I can, because I think that would be so great to be able to speak. And for example, just before this day, I forgot my key in the room, left my room, and then the room was locked. I had to go ask to the reception of the hall to help me, and they absolutely do not speak a single word of English, so it's always very hard also to communicate. I just found out because she did not understand the room and she did not understand some numbers that I wrote, so I just could say those numbers in Cantonese, as now I know how to count. So that was already great, and that already like helped me a bit in a situation. So I think those little events also make you realize how important is it to learn this language, and also just to learn more about the culture while being more interested in the language. So basically really my goals are to learn as much as I can, make the most of this class that I took on the side, which is going to last for a semester. So it's twice per week, 1 hour 30 of class during the whole semester. So it's going to last for about like 10 weeks, something like that, as we start on week 2 or 3. I just want to be able to at least say a few sentences, maybe to order in restaurant, in shops, or all those things. But I also really want to improve my Mandarin on the side, as I was already learning it. I really want to be able to speak a bit better Mandarin. So really for Cantonese, I really want to reach this conversational level, to be able to say a few sentences, to order in restaurant, to say like very basic sentences, greetings, all those things, to be able to talk a tiny bit about myself if someone asks for. That is like my really objective and like my goals for Cantonese. And I also realize that it's a very hard language as well, so I will try to make the most out of it, to just spend the most time that I can on Cantonese and trying to improve as best as I can. But I'm not too hard on myself in case I realize that it's a bit harder than expected. So I also have my classes on the side at university, and even though I think they're taking a bit less time than at home, I still think that it's pretty hard to take as much time as I wished for to learn Cantonese. And also on the weekends, I also want to go discover a bit the city, to go to travel. Like, it's really more that I want to take the most of my journey here. And as I'm here, I have so many things to see and so many things that I want to do, instead of just staying, studying during the weekends if I don't have to. I'm just trying to find some slots in my week that I can use to learn Cantonese and to make the most of my classes also, which I have every Monday and Wednesday. So this is all for this video. I will probably do a lot more videos about Cantonese, just to kind of follow also how I'm learning it, if I find any other resources, or like study with me Cantonese. I don't know exactly what about, but I thought that could be maybe an interesting videos in case you're interested about Cantonese, and also that those little resources maybe gave you an idea in case you want to learn it, because it's definitely not the easiest language to have access to. If you have any other resources for Cantonese, I would be so interested about having them, so don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching until the end of this video, and see you in the next one.